The piercing summer heat shimmered across the desolate junkyard, where among mountains of forgotten debris, a once proud K9 clung to life by the thinnest thread. When Park Ranger Olivia Kincaid first spotted those familiar eyes staring back at her from beneath twisted metal, eyes she'd thought were lost forever in a wildfire 3 years ago, her whole world stopped. What happens next isn't just a story of reunion, but a testament to the unbreakable bond that would inspire millions and change the way a nation views loyalty, perseverance, and the healing power of second chances. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The relentless July sun beat down on the cracked earth of Silver Ridge National Park, baking the soil into a dusty copper beneath Olivia Kincaid's worn boots. The 34-year-old veteran ranger adjusted her wide-brimmed hat, squinting against the harsh light that spilled across the drought-parched landscape. Shadows stretched long across the hills as afternoon began its slow surrender to evening, painting the canyons in amber and gold. 3 years in this remote outpost had taught Olivia to find beauty in desolation, but today her mind was elsewhere. Her radio crackled with static before a voice cut through. "Kincaid, you copy, over." Olivia reached for the device clipped to her belt. "Copy, base. Go ahead." "Got a report of illegal dumping again at the old Henderson site just beyond the park boundary. I know you're almost off shift, but can you check it out? Jackson's tied up with that lost hiker situation." Olivia sighed. The abandoned Henderson mining property had become the county's unofficial dumping ground, despite numerous cleanup efforts. "On my way. ETA 15 minutes. Over." She climbed into her dusty green Ranger truck, the interior hot enough to sear skin. After rolling down the windows, she navigated the winding dirt road that connected the eastern edge of the park to county land. The radio played softly, some local country station fading in and out with the terrain. Olivia barely noticed. The music. Her mind drifted, as it often did in these quiet moments alone, to memories she both treasured and feared. 3 years ago, Olivia had transferred to Silver Ridge from Cascade Mountain National Forest in Washington state. Most people assumed she'd moved for the promotion or the change of scenery. Only a handful knew the truth, that she couldn't bear to stay in a place where every trail, every overlook, every ranger station reminded her of Echo. Echo had been more than just Olivia's canine partner. The sleek black German shepherd with intelligent amber eyes had been her constant companion through 7 years of service, specialized in search and rescue, wildlife tracking, and detection of environmental contaminants. Together, they'd located 23 lost hikers, tracked poachers through impossible terrain, and survived one of the worst wildfire seasons in the state's history, until the Carson Ridge fire. Olivia's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as the memories surfaced, unbidden and sharp. The wall of flame advancing faster than predicted. The frantic evacuation of the Wildlife Research Station. The sudden collapse of a burning tree that separated them. Echo, on the other side of the flames, barking once before disappearing into the smoke as Olivia screamed her name. 3 days of desperate searching followed. Teams combing through blackened forest. Helicopters scanning for any sign. But all they'd found was Echo's partially burned tactical vest near a steep ravine, the edges singed and stained with blood. The official report listed Echo as deceased in the line of duty. Olivia had received a commendation for evacuating the research team, but it meant nothing. She'd left her partner behind. The truck hit a pothole, jolting Olivia back to the present. She blinked away the moisture in her eyes, focusing on the road ahead as the Henderson property came into view. The place was a scar on the landscape, a 40-acre plot of abandoned mining equipment, crumbling outbuildings, and now, apparently, fresh piles of illegally dumped trash. Olivia parked near the rusty gates, hanging askew from broken hinges. The no trespassing signs were barely legible, bleached by years of sun and neglect. She grabbed her citation book, camera, and water bottle before stepping out into the punishing heat. The temperature had to be pushing 100 degrees, and the air smelled of dust, metal, and decay. "Let's get this over with," she muttered to herself, ducking through the gate. The property was a maze of derelict mining equipment, collapsed sheds, and trenches half filled with stagnant water. Olivia moved carefully, scanning for fresh tire tracks that would lead to the new dumping site. Years of training had taught her to observe her surroundings systematically, to notice small details others might miss. It was this methodical approach that had made her and Echo such an effective team. Near the center of the property, she found what she was looking for: a fresh pile of construction debris, household garbage, and what appeared to be restaurant waste. Flies buzzed in thick clouds over rotting food. Olivia wrinkled her nose in disgust as she photographed the scene, making notes about tire tracks and any identifying information in the trash that might lead to the culprits. As she circled the pile, something caught her eye. Movement among a stack of discarded appliances about 50 yards away, probably a coyote or feral dog scavenging. The region had seen an increase in abandoned pets since the economic downturn hit the surrounding communities. Olivia reached for her binoculars, focusing on the distant movement. Something was definitely there, partially hidden behind a rusted refrigerator. She could make out what looked like the hindquarters of a large dog, fur matted and filthy. "Hey there," she called, not loud enough to startle the animal, but hoping to get its attention. The figure didn't move. Approaching slowly, Olivia maintained a cautious distance. Abandoned dogs could be unpredictable, especially if injured or starving. As she drew nearer, she could see it was indeed a large dog, possibly a German shepherd, or similar breed, lying on its side in a small depression between junk piles. Its coat, what remained of it, was caked with dirt and what looked like dried blood. One back leg lay at an unnatural angle. "Poor thing," Olivia murmured. The county animal shelter was already overcrowded, but she couldn't leave an injured animal to suffer in this heat. Maybe Dr. Landon at the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center would take it in temporarily. She was about 15 feet away when the dog suddenly lifted its head. Olivia froze. Despite the matted fur, despite the clouded despite 3 years and logical impossibility, she knew that face. Knew the distinctive white marking on the chest, now barely visible beneath layers of grime. Knew the angle of those ears, one of which now appeared torn and misshapen. Echo! The name escaped her lips in a whisper, so soft it was almost lost. In the hot, still air, the dog's left ear twitched slightly. The one good eye, still that warm amber color Olivia remembered, focused on her with an intensity that defied the animal's broken physical state. Olivia's legs nearly gave out. She sank to her knees in the dirt, hands trembling as they covered her mouth. It couldn't be. Echo had died 3 years ago, hundreds of miles away in a wildfire. The rational part of her brain insisted this was impossible, just a similar-looking dog that had triggered her grief. But then the dog made a sound, not a bark or a whine, but a soft huff of breath that Olivia would have recognized anywhere. It was the sound Echo always made when she found something she'd been searching for. "Echo," Olivia said again, stronger this time. "Is it really you, girl?" She inched closer, heart hammering against her ribs, afraid that moving too quickly might somehow make this miracle disappear. The dog watched her approach, too weak to move, but tracking her with that one good eye. When Olivia was just a few feet away, she could see a collar, weathered, cracked, nearly disintegrated, but still clinging to the dog's neck. With trembling fingers, Olivia reached out to touch the tag hanging from the collar. Brushing away years of dirt and grime, she exposed the engraving, Echo, Silveridge National Park Ranger Service. Time seemed to stop. The distant call of a hawk, the buzzing of flies, the occasional creak of settling metal in the junkyard, all faded away. There was only Olivia and this impossible moment, this miracle she couldn't begin to comprehend. "Echo," she whispered, tears now flowing freely down her cheeks. How are you here?" Echo made no sound but held Olivia's gaze with a steady intensity that transcended words. In that silent exchange was everything: recognition, pain, and something Olivia hadn't dared to feel in 3 years: hope. Moving slowly, afraid that any sudden gesture might shatter this fragile moment, Olivia reached toward Echo. Her hand hovered inches from the dog's head, hesitating. What if this wasn't real? What if reaching out would break the spell? Then Echo made another soft sound, and with visible effort, lifted her head just enough to press her muzzle against Olivia's outstretched hand. The contact broke something. In Olivia, 3 years of carefully maintained composure crumbled like the drought-parched earth beneath her knees. She sobbed openly, shoulders shaking, as she gently stroked Echo's head. The dog's fur was rough with dirt and neglect, nothing like the sleek coat Olivia remembered, but the shape of the skull beneath her palm was achingly familiar. "I thought you were gone," Olivia choked out. "We looked everywhere for you." "I looked everywhere." Echo's tail, once proud and full, now thin and patchy, twitched slightly against the ground. Even in this broken state, she was trying to wag for her partner. Reality crashed back as Olivia's ranger training kicked in. Echo was alive but clearly in critical condition. She was emaciated, dehydrated, injured, and showing signs of infection. This junkyard was at least 100 miles from where Echo had disappeared during the Carson Ridge fire. How she had survived, how she had traveled so far, those were questions for later. Right now, Echo needed immediate medical attention. With the gentlest touch she could manage, Olivia ran her hands along Echo's body, assessing injuries. The broken back leg was an old injury, long since healed incorrectly. There was a more recent wound on her side that looked infected. Her ribs protruded sharply beneath Olivia's fingers, and patches of skin showed where fur had fallen out. Most concerning was the clouded right eye and the labored breathing. "Okay, girl, we need to get you help," Olivia said, pulling herself together. She reached for her radio. "Base, this is Kincaid. I have an emergency situation at the Henderson site. I need immediate assistance and veterinary transport. Over." The radio crackled back. "Copy, Kincaid. What's the nature of the emergency?" Over. Olivia's voice caught. How could she possibly explain this? I've found Echo, my K9 partner. She's alive but in critical condition. I need Dr. Landon from Wildlife Rehab here as fast as possible. Over." A long pause followed. Everyone at the station knew Echo's story. Everyone knew what her loss had done to Olivia. "Kincaid, confirm. Did you say you found Echo?" Over. "Affirmative. It's her. I'm looking at her tag right now. Please. She needs medical attention immediately. Over." Another pause, shorter this time. "Understood. Dispatching Dr. Landon. ETA 20 minutes. Jackson is closest to your location. He's en route to assist. Over." "Copy that. Tell them to hurry." Olivia clipped the radio back to her belt. Echo watched her with that one good eye, trust evident. Despite the years of separation and whatever hardships she had endured, Olivia removed her outer shirt, leaving just a tank top, and gently draped the fabric over Echo's trembling body. Then she opened her water bottle and carefully poured a small amount into her cupped hand. "Small sips, girl. That's it." Echo lapped weakly at the water. Olivia repeated the process several times, careful not to let her drink too much at once. As she waited for help to arrive, she kept one hand on Echo's bony shoulder, as if breaking physical contact might mean losing her again. "You're going to be okay," Olivia promised, though she knew the reality was far from certain. Echo's condition was grave. But something in that steady amber gaze told Olivia that this dog, her dog, had survived impossible odds already. She had somehow lived through a wildfire, travelled hundreds of miles, and endured 3 years of hardship, only to be found in this random junkyard by the very person she'd been separated from. "You never gave up," Olivia whispered. "And I'm not giving up on you either." The sound of an approaching vehicle broke the stillness. Ranger Jackson's truck appeared at the gate, followed closely by the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center's van. Dr. Landon, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical braid, emerged from the passenger side, medical bag already in hand. "Over here," Olivia called, not moving from Echo's side. Dr. Landon approached quickly but carefully, taking in the scene with professional calm. Only the slight widening of her eyes betrayed her shock when she recognized the dog. "Is it really?" she began. "It's Echo," Olivia confirmed. "Her tag confirms it, and I know my partner." Dr. Landon knelt beside them, setting down her bag. "I've heard of working dogs finding their way home over incredible distances, but this—" She shook her head in amazement before focusing on the task at hand. "Let me examine her." Olivia moved aside just enough to give the veterinarian access while maintaining contact with Echo. Dr. Landon's examination was gentle but thorough, her expression growing more concerned with each discovery. "She's in critical condition," she finally said. "Severe malnutrition, dehydration, infected wound on her flank. Evidence of numerous older injuries that have healed poorly. The right eye has developed a cataract, possibly from trauma. The left hind leg was broken at some point and has fused incorrectly." Olivia swallowed hard. "But you can help her, right?" Dr. Landon met her gaze directly. "We'll do everything we can, but I need to be honest with you, Olivia. Her condition is grave. Her body has been through extensive trauma, and there may be internal damage we can't see yet. The kindest option might be—" "No," Olivia cut her off, voice firm. "She didn't survive 3 years and find her way here just to give up now. Whatever it takes, whatever it costs, she deserves a chance." Dr. Landon studied Olivia's face, then nodded. "We'll try, but the first 24 hours will be critical." She turned to her assistants, who had approached with a stretcher. "Let's get her stabilized for transport. IV fluids immediately. Careful with that back leg." As the team worked to place Echo on the stretcher, Olivia remained close, murmuring reassurances. Echo's eye never left her face, even as the veterinary team inserted an IV line and secured her for transport. "I'm coming with you," Olivia told Dr. Landon, her tone making it clear this wasn't a request. "I wouldn't have it any other way," the veterinarian replied. "Her will to survive is extraordinary. Having you there might make all the difference." They lifted Echo gently into the back of the rehab center's van. Olivia climbed in beside her, taking position next to the stretcher where Echo could see her. As the doors closed and the vehicle began moving, Olivia leaned close to her partner's ear. "You found your way back to me across impossible odds," she whispered. "Now we fight together, just like old times." Echo's tail twitched once more against the stretcher, the smallest gesture, but in it was a promise that transcended words. Whatever journey had brought them back together against all logic and probability, whatever battles lay ahead in Echo's recovery, they would face them the way they had always faced challenges, as partners bound by a loyalty too deep to be broken, by time, distance, or even the shadow of death itself. As the van sped toward the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center with its precious cargo, Olivia's mind raced with questions she couldn't answer. How had Echo survived the fire? How had she traveled so far? What had she endured during these 3 years? But alongside these questions bloomed something Olivia had thought was forever lost. Hope. In that moment, looking down at the broken but undefeated form of the partner she'd mourned for 3 years, Olivia made a silent vow. If Echo could find her way back from the impossible, then Olivia would help her find her way back to health, no matter what it took, no matter how long the road ahead. The journey that had begun in fire and separation had somehow, against all odds, led them back to each other. And in that miracle was the first chapter of a story neither of them could yet imagine, a story that would eventually inspire not just their small community, but an entire nation to believe in the extraordinary. Power of loyalty, perseverance, and an unbreakable bond. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The Wildlife Rehabilitation Center was a converted ranch house nestled against the foothills 5 miles outside of town, usually bustling with activity. Volunteers tending to injured hawks, orphaned fawns, and the occasional bobcat. Tonight the facility had been cleared of all non-essential personnel. Dr. Landon had radioed ahead, ensuring that the main treatment room would be ready for their arrival. As the van pulled into the gravel driveway, the evening shadows had deepened into twilight. The distant mountains were silhouetted against a sky painted in fading oranges and deepening purples. Under different circumstances, Olivia might have paused to appreciate the beauty. Tonight, her focus remained entirely on the shallow rise and fall of Echo's chest beside her. The back doors swung open. Dr. Landon's team moved with practiced efficiency, sliding the stretcher out and rushing Echo into the building. Olivia followed, never more than a step behind, her heart pounding with each labored breath Echo took. The main treatment room was flooded with bright light that made Olivia blink after the dimness of the van. Stainless steel surfaces gleamed. Monitors hummed to life as Echo was transferred to the examination table. "I need a complete blood panel, chest X-rays and ultrasound," Dr. Landon directed her team. "Start a second IV line with electrolytes and broad-spectrum antibiotics for that infected wound. Let's get her temperature and check oxygen levels." The team moved around Echo with choreographed precision. A young technician gently inserted a thermometer while another drew blood samples. A third monitored the IV fluids already flowing into Echo's withered veins. Dr. Landon herself carefully examined the infected wound on Echo's flank, her expression grim. "This needs immediate cleaning and debridement," she said. "The infection is deep. Olivia, you should step outside while I'm staying." Olivia's voice was quiet but resolute. She moved to the head of the table where Echo could see her, placing a gentle hand on the least injured part of her partner's head. "She needs to know I'm here." Dr. Landon hesitated, then nodded. "All right. But you'll need to wear protective gear and stay out of the team's way." She nodded to a technician, who handed Olivia a sterile gown, cap, and mask. While the team prepared for the procedure, Olivia leaned close to Echo's ear. "You're not alone. Anymore, girl. I'm right here. You've been so brave for so long, just a little longer now." Echo's good eye fixed on Olivia with an intensity that belied her physical state. Despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the years of separation, there was recognition in that gaze. More than recognition, trust. It was the same look Olivia had seen countless times during their years of service together, when they'd faced raging wildfires, treacherous terrain, and dangerous rescue operations. The look that said, "I'm with you, no matter what comes next." The next hours passed, in a blur of medical terminology, tense moments, and small victories. The wound cleaning was painful, despite the sedation they'd administered, and Olivia winced with each whimper that escaped Echo's throat. The blood tests revealed severe anemia, kidney stress, and signs of past heartworm infection that had somehow resolved. The X-rays showed evidence of multiple healed fractures beyond the obvious rear leg, ribs, one front paw, even a small crack in the skull that had knitted back together. "Her will to survive is remarkable," Dr. Landon said quietly as they reviewed the images. "Most animals wouldn't have survived these injuries individually, let alone all of them, plus malnutrition and exposure." Olivia's throat tightened. She was always exceptional. Even during training, the instructors said they'd never seen a dog with such determination. "That determination is probably what's kept her alive," Dr. Landon replied. "But determination alone won't be enough now. She's essentially running on empty. Her reserves are completely depleted." "What are her chances?" Olivia forced herself to ask the question she'd been avoiding. Dr. Landon removed her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose where they'd left marks. She looked tired, the lines around her eyes deeper in the harsh overhead lighting. "If she makes it through the night, maybe 30%. If she makes it through the week, then we can start being cautiously optimistic. But Olivia," she placed a hand on the ranger's shoulder, "you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that she's going to make it." Olivia interrupted, her voice low but fierce. "She didn't survive 3 years of God knows what just to give up now, and neither will I." Dr. Landon studied her face, then nodded slowly. "Then we'll do everything we can. I've called in Dr. Matthews from the veterinary hospital in Ridgecrest. He's a specialist in canine rehabilitation and trauma cases. He'll be here first thing tomorrow." "Thank you," Olivia said, the words inadequate for the depth of her gratitude. "You should get some rest," Dr. Landon advised. "There's a cot in the office you can use. I'll have someone come get you if there's any change." Olivia shook her head. "I'm not leaving her side." Dr. Landon didn't argue. Instead, she instructed one of the technicians to bring a chair for Olivia. "We'll be monitoring her constantly. Try to get some sleep if you can. Echo will need your strength in the days ahead." As the team finished stabilizing Echo for the night, connecting monitors to track her vital signs and adjusting the IV flow, Olivia settled into the chair beside the table. She reached through the metal rails to rest her hand gently on Echo's bony shoulder, careful to avoid the IV line and sensors. "Rest now, girl," she whispered. "I'll be right here when you wake up." The rehabilitation center gradually quieted. As the night deepened, Dr. Landon checked on Echo once more before retreating to her office, promising to return in a few hours. A young technician named Maya remained at the monitoring station in the corner, recording vital signs every 30 minutes like clockwork. Olivia sat in the dim room, listening to the soft beep of monitors and Echo's labored breathing. Her mind raced with questions that had no answers. How had Echo survived the Carson Ridge fire? The search teams had combed through miles of burned forest. They'd found her tactical vest with blood on it. They'd declared her dead, and yet here she was, clinging to life. How had she ended up hundreds of miles away in that junkyard? What journey had brought her there? What hardships had she endured to survive this long? The clock on the wall ticked past midnight. Maya approached quietly with a cup of coffee, placing it on the small table beside Olivia. "Thought you might need this," she said softly. "Dr. Landon said you're the ranger Echo worked with before she went missing." Olivia nodded, accepting the coffee gratefully. 7 years. We were partners from her first day of training until—" Her voice trailed off. Maya glanced at Echo's still form, monitors casting a bluish glow across her dirty fur. "Everyone at the center has heard about her. The K9 who saved those researchers during the big wildfire, then disappeared. There was an article about her in the Ranger Service newsletter. They called her a hero." "She was," Olivia said, then corrected herself. "She is. Dr. Landon's the best," Maya assured her. "If anyone can pull Echo through, she can." As Maya returned to her station, Olivia found herself transported back to the day she'd first met Echo. The German Shepherd had been just 18 months old, already showing exceptional aptitude in the K9 training program. Olivia, 3 years into her ranger career and newly accepted to the K9 handler program, had been nervous about being paired with a dog everyone described as special. Their first meeting had been nothing short of magical. Echo, alert and focused, had studied Olivia with those intelligent amber eyes, seeming to look straight into her soul. Within minutes, it was as if they'd known each other forever. By the end of their first training day, they were already moving in sync, anticipating each other's movements. Those early days had been filled with rigorous training, search and rescue scenarios, wildlife tracking, environmental hazard detection. Echo had excelled at everything, but it was her search and rescue work that truly set her apart. She seemed to understand instinctively that finding lost people wasn't just about following scents. It was about bringing families back together. Their first real mission came just 3 months into their partnership. A 5-year-old boy lost in the dense forests of Cascade Mountain during an early autumn snowstorm. The official search had been called off as conditions deteriorated, but Olivia and Echo had insisted on one more sweep of a ravine area. Against all odds, they'd found the child, hypothermic but alive, huddled beneath a fallen tree. That successful rescue had been the first of many. Year after year, in all conditions, Echo had demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to find people when all hope seemed lost. Beyond her professional accomplishments, she had become Olivia's constant companion, sharing her small cabin, joining her on off-duty hikes, sleeping at the foot of her bed each night. Then came the Carson Ridge fire. What had started as a routine evacuation of a wildlife research station had turned catastrophic when the fire jumped containment lines. The last image Olivia had of Echo, standing on the other side of a wall, a flame, barking once before turning to lead the last 2 researchers to safety, had haunted her dreams for 3 years. She'd spent weeks searching the burn zone after the fire was contained, long after the official search had been abandoned. She called Echo's name until her voice gave out. She'd followed every possible trail until there were no trails left to follow. In the end, the only evidence they'd found was Echo's tactical vest, torn and bloodied, caught on rocks at the base of a steep ravine. The rangers had held a memorial service. Echo's name had been added to the wall honoring service animals lost. In the line of duty, Olivia had accepted the folded flag, the service medal, the condolences, all while feeling hollow inside. She'd requested the transfer to Silveridge shortly after, unable to walk the same trails without her partner by her side. And now, impossibly, Echo had found her way back, not just to life, but to Olivia specifically. The mathematical probability was incalculable. That Echo had survived, that she had traveled so far, that she had ended up in that specific junkyard. On that specific day, when Olivia happened to be dispatched there, it defied logic. It defied everything Olivia thought she knew about the world, and yet here they were. Echo stirred slightly, a small whimper escaping her throat. Olivia immediately leaned closer, gently stroking the least injured part of Echo's head. "Shh, it's okay. I'm here," she whispered. Echo settled again, her breathing still labored but steady. Around 3 a.m., Dr. Landon returned, checking Echo's vitals and adjusting her medications. She studied the monitors, made notes on the chart, and turned to Olivia with a cautious nod. "She's holding her own. The antibiotics seem to be helping with the infection. Her fever's down slightly, still critical, but no worse than when we brought her in." "That's good, right?" Olivia asked, desperate for any positive sign. "It's better than the alternative," Dr. Landon replied honestly. "The next few hours are crucial. Dawn is often when we see patients either turn a corner or—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. Olivia understood the gravity of Echo's condition, the exhaustion, the injuries, the prolonged malnutrition, any one of these could still claim her life, despite their best efforts. Dr. Landon checked Echo's IV lines once more before departing, promising to return before dawn. Maya continued her quiet vigilance from the monitoring station. The clock ticked relentlessly toward morning. Olivia must have dozed off at some point, her head resting awkwardly against the metal rail of Echo's table. She woke with a start to a different sound than the steady beep of the monitors. A change in Echo's breathing pattern. Instantly alert, she looked up to find Echo's good eye open, focused directly on her. "Echo?" Olivia whispered, her heart racing. The German shepherd's tail twitched against the table, the same small movement Olivia had seen in the junkyard. It wasn't a proper wag, barely a flutter, but it was deliberate. Recognition, acknowledgement. "Maya," Olivia called softly to the technician who had fallen asleep at her station. "Maya, she's awake." The young woman jolted up, hurrying over to check the monitors. "Vitals are actually a bit stronger," she said with surprise, reaching for the clinic phone. "I'll call Dr. Landon." Olivia leaned close to Echo, her voice thick with emotion. "Hey there, partner. You're doing great." Echo's ear twitched at the sound of her voice. Despite the tubes, the sensors, and the obvious pain, there was a clarity in her gaze that hadn't been there before. A presence, an awareness. "You know me, don't you?" Olivia asked softly. "After all this time, you still know me?" In response, Echo made a small movement with her front paw, lifting it slightly off the table, holding it there for a moment before her strength gave out. It was a gesture Olivia recognized immediately. During their training, Echo had been taught to shake as a simple trick to charm visitors at the ranger station. But between the two of them, it had evolved into something more, a greeting, a reassurance, a way of saying "I'm with you" without words. Tears spilled down Olivia's cheeks. "I'm with you too, girl, all the way." Dr. Landon arrived within minutes, still pulling a sweater over her rumpled clothes. She moved quickly to Echo's side, conducting a thorough examination while reviewing the latest vitals. "This is unexpected," she admitted, genuine surprise in her voice. "Her readings are showing slight improvement across the board. The fact that she's alert and responsive is frankly remarkable given her condition." "She's fighting," Olivia said simply. "Yes, she is." Dr. Landon's professional reserve softened for a moment. "I've worked with injured wildlife and domestic animals for 20 years, and I've rarely seen this kind of will to survive. She's drawing strength from somewhere." "From being found," Olivia suggested. "From not being alone anymore." Dr. Landon considered this, then nodded. "The psychological component of healing is powerful, even for animals, perhaps especially for working dogs with strong bonds to their handlers." She adjusted Echo's IV line. "We're not out of the woods by any means, but this is a positive sign. Let's see if we can get her to take a little water and some nutrients." With Olivia's help, they managed to get Echo to lick a small amount of water from a syringe, followed by a few mouthfuls of a high-calorie nutrient paste. It wasn't much, but even this small victory felt momentous. As the first rays of dawn filtered through the windows, casting long golden beams across the treatment room floor, Dr. Landon stepped back from the table with cautious optimism. "Dr. Matthews will be here in a few hours to consult on her case. In the meantime, I think we can say she's officially stable, still critical, but stable." Olivia exhaled shakily, realizing she'd been holding her breath. "Thank you," she said, the simple words carrying the weight of everything she couldn't articulate. Dr. Landon smiled tiredly. "Thank Echo. She's the one doing the impossible here." As the rehabilitation center began to come alive with the morning shift, Olivia remained at Echo's side. The K9's condition was precarious, her body ravaged by years of hardship, injuries, and neglect, But in that alert amber eye was something undefeated, something that transcended physical limitations, a spirit that had navigated its way through fire, distance, and unimaginable challenges to find its way back to where it belonged. Outside, the sun climbed higher, warming the earth after the cool desert night. Birds called to one another in the surrounding hills. The world continued its ordinary rhythms, unaware that within these walls something extraordinary was unfolding, a reunion that defied explanation, a bond that had somehow stretched across years and hundreds of miles without breaking. Olivia gently stroked Echo's head, her voice soft but filled with conviction. "First hurdle down, girl. You made it through the night. Now we fight together for all the days ahead." Echo's eye remained fixed on Olivia, unwavering in its focus. In that steady gaze was not just survival, but a promise that whatever came next, neither of them would face it alone again. Dr. Matthews arrived just after 8 in the morning, his weathered face creased with concentration as he examined Echo. The veterinary specialist had driven 3 hours from Ridgecrest, bringing specialized equipment and decades of experience treating severely injured working dogs. His reputation preceded him, former military, now dedicated to rehabilitating service animals, with a particular focus on canines injured in the line of duty. "I've reviewed her charts," he said, his voice carrying the slight drawl of someone who'd grown up further east. "And I've got to say, I've never seen a case quite like this." Olivia watched anxiously as he methodically assessed Echo's condition, his large hands surprisingly gentle as they moved over her emaciated body. Echo remained still during the examination, her good eye following his movements with wary attention. "The malnutrition and dehydration we can address," Dr. Matthews explained, straightening up. "The infection is responding to antibiotics. It's the old injuries that concern me most, especially that rear leg. It was a complex fracture that healed without proper alignment. There's significant muscle atrophy and nerve damage." "What does that mean for her recovery?" Olivia asked, bracing herself for the answer. Dr. Matthews met her gaze directly. "Best case scenario, with intensive rehabilitation, she might regain limited mobility in that leg. Worst case, we may need to consider amputation if it becomes a source of chronic pain." The word amputation hit Olivia like a physical blow. Echo, who had once raced through forests with unmatched speed and agility, might never run again. The realization brought a fresh wave of grief for everything her partner had lost during those 3 missing years. Seeing her expression, Dr. Matthews softened his clinical demeanor. "Let me be clear about something, Ranger Kincaid. The fact that she's alive at all is nothing short of miraculous. That she found her way back to you defies explanation. I've worked with hundreds of service dogs, and I can tell you that the bond you two share is exceptional." He glanced at Echo, who was still watching them intently despite her exhaustion. "That bond might be the most powerful medicine she has. Dogs like Echo don't just give up. They find a way, especially when they have something to live for." His words rekindled a spark of hope in Olivia's chest. "So what's our next step?" "We stabilize her further, continue treating the infection, and begin a careful nutritional plan to address the malnutrition without overwhelming her system," he replied. "Once she's stronger, maybe in a week or 2, we can start gentle physical therapy and better assess what's possible for that leg." Olivia nodded, mentally preparing herself for the long road ahead. "Whatever it takes, whatever she needs, I'm all in." "I can see that," Dr. Matthews said with a knowing smile, "and believe me, she knows it too." Over the next days, Echo's condition improved gradually, small victories that Olivia cherished like precious gifts. The first time Echo managed to lap water from a bowl on her own, the moment she voluntarily ate solid food, albeit specially prepared and easily digestible. The morning she lifted her head and held it up for nearly a minute, surveying the room with greater alertness. Olivia arranged emergency leave from the ranger service, sleeping on a cot beside Echo's recovery pen at night and assisting with her care during the day. Chief Ranger Wilson had been stunned by the news of Echo's miraculous return, but immediately approved Olivia's request. "Take whatever time you need," he'd said over the phone. "What you two accomplished together earned that, much and more. The whole service is pulling for her." Word of Echo's discovery spread rapidly through the tight-knit ranger community. Cards and messages of support arrived daily, first from nearby parks, then from ranger stations across multiple states. Echo's story had always been legendary among service dog handlers: her rescue record, her heroism during the Carson Ridge fire, her presumed sacrifice. Her return from the dead transformed that legend into something even more profound. On the fourth day, Olivia was helping Dr. Landon change Echo's bandages when Ranger Alex Delgado appeared at the door of the treatment room, hat in hand. "Sorry to interrupt," he said. "I was hoping I could see her, if that's allowed." Olivia smiled at the sight of her colleague. Alex had been part of the original search team after the Carson Ridge fire, spending countless hours combing the burned forest for any sign of Echo. "Of course. Come in." Alex approached Echo's recovery pen slowly, his expression a mixture of disbelief and wonder. Echo, who had been dozing, opened her good eye at his approach, watching him cautiously. "I can't believe it's really her," Alex said softly. "When I heard, I thought there must be some mistake." He knelt beside the pen, careful to maintain a respectful distance. "Hey there, Echo. Remember me? We did that Black Bear relocation together up in Cascade." Echo's ear twitched at the sound of his voice. After a moment of apparent consideration, she gave a small tail wag. Just a fraction of the enthusiastic greeting she once would have offered, but enough to show recognition. Alex's eyes glistened. "She remembers. She remembers everything," Olivia confirmed. "The doctors say her cognitive function seems remarkably intact despite everything she's been through." "How is she doing?" Alex asked, noting the IV line still delivering fluids and the bandaged wound on her flank. "Better every day," Olivia replied. "The infection's responding to treatment. She's keeping food down now. Her blood work is showing improvement." She left unsaid the remaining challenges: the damaged leg, the vision lost in one eye, the long rehabilitation process that lay ahead. Alex seemed to understand the unspoken concerns. "She's tough, always was. Toughest dog in the program." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small leather object. "I brought something for her, found it while cleaning out some old equipment." He handed it to Olivia, a worn leather tag with Echo stamped into it, the first identification. Tag Echo had worn as a trainee before receiving her official Ranger service tags. "I kept it," Alex admitted, "after the memorial service. Seemed wrong to throw it away." Olivia ran her thumb over the embossed letters, emotion welling in her throat. "Thank you," she managed. "This means a lot." Alex stayed for another 30 minutes, telling Olivia about the developments at the park during her absence and sharing stories about the search and rescue operations he'd conducted with his own canine partner, a Belgian Malinois named Scout. Before leaving, he promised to organize a rotation of rangers to help with any needs Olivia might have during Echo's recovery. "The whole service stands with you both," he assured her. "Whatever you need, whenever you need it, just say the word." After Alex departed, Olivia entered Echo's pen, sitting cross-legged on the floor beside her partner. Echo immediately shifted position, painfully but deliberately, to rest her head on Olivia's lap. It was a gesture so achingly familiar, their standard position during downtime at the ranger station, during evenings in Olivia's cabin, during quiet moments after difficult rescues. "Look what Alex brought," Olivia said softly, holding the leather tag where Echo could see it. Your very first tag, from when you were just a rookie with big paws and endless energy. Echo studied the tag, her good eye focusing intently on the familiar object. Then she did something that caught Olivia completely by surprise. With obvious effort, she lifted her front paw and placed it directly on Olivia's hand that held the tag, exactly as she had been trained to identify objects during evidence searches. The simple action took Olivia's breath away. It wasn't just recognition. It was Echo deliberately demonstrating that she remembered her training, that beneath the injuries and hardship, she was still the same intelligent, skilled partner she had always been. "That's right," Olivia whispered, fighting back tears. "That's you. That's always been you." Over the next week, Echo's recovery accelerated, defying even Dr. Matthews' optimistic projections. The infected wound began to heal cleanly. Her appetite improved steadily. Most remarkably, she began attempting to stand on her own, despite the weakness in her damaged rear leg. The first successful attempt came 9 days after her discovery in the junkyard. Olivia had been helping her outside to a small grassy area for some fresh air and sunshine, a ritual they'd established a few days earlier. Usually Olivia supported most of Echo's weight with a special harness. This time, as they reached the grass, Echo suddenly shifted, taking her weight onto her 3 stronger legs, standing shakily but independently for several seconds before sinking back down. "Dr. Landon!" Olivia called out excitedly to the veterinarian, who was reviewing charts nearby. "She stood on her own!" Dr. Landon hurried over, breaking into a rare, broad smile as Echo, seemingly encouraged by the positive reaction, made another determined effort to stand. This time she managed to remain upright for nearly half a minute. "Extraordinary," Dr. Landon murmured. "Her muscle strength shouldn't allow for this yet." "It's not just muscle strength," Olivia said, kneeling beside Echo and gently praising her. "It's Echo." The following days brought more milestones. Echo began taking several shaky steps with minimal support. She relearned basic commands with remarkable speed: sit, stay, come, executing them with growing confidence despite her physical limitations. Most significantly, she began alerting to sounds outside her visual range, turning her head precisely toward distant doors opening or vehicles arriving, demonstrating that her exceptional hearing remained intact. Dr. Matthews returned to evaluate her progress, his professional reserve giving way to undisguised amazement at the improvement. "I've rehabilitated working dogs for 20 years, he told Olivia after a thorough examination. "I've never seen a recovery curve like this. Physically, she's still severely compromised, but her determination is off the charts." "What about her leg?" Olivia asked, the question that had been weighing heaviest on her mind. Dr. Matthews spent several minutes carefully manipulating the damaged limb, watching Echo's reactions closely. "There's more nerve function than I initially thought. She definitely has sensation throughout the limb, and she's showing improved motor control." He straightened up. "I think amputation is off the table. With continued therapy, she may regain 50–60% function, enough for moderate mobility with some accommodation." The relief that flooded through Olivia was so intense it made her lightheaded. "So she'll be able to walk, to move around on her own?" "Walk, yes. Run like she used to? No." His honesty was tempered with genuine compassion. "But she'll have good quality of life, Olivia, and that's a victory no one thought possible to." Weeks ago, that afternoon, they began more structured physical therapy. Dr. Matthews showed Olivia specific exercises to help rebuild Echo's atrophied muscles and improve her coordination. Echo tackled each new challenge with characteristic focus, repeating movements that were clearly painful without hesitation. "She's still a working dog at heart," Dr. Matthews observed. "Give her a job, and she'll do it regardless of personal cost." "That's always been her way," Olivia agreed, watching Echo determinedly lift her damaged leg in the sequence they demonstrated. 100% commitment to whatever's asked of her. By the end of the second week, Echo was walking short, distances unaided, favoring her damaged leg but managing to navigate the rehabilitation center's grassy exercise area independently. Her coat, though still patchy, had begun to regain some shine as her nutrition improved. The cloudy right eye would never regain vision, but the amber left eye was bright and alert, missing nothing. Dr. Landon began discussing discharge plans. She's stable enough to continue recovery outside the center now. The question is where she'll go and what support she'll need. She's coming home with me, Olivia said without hesitation. I've already started adapting my cabin for her needs. Indeed, during brief visits home to collect clean clothes and necessities, Olivia had been rearranging her small ranger cabin to accommodate Echo's limitations. She'd installed ramps over the porch steps, purchased an orthopedic dog bed, and ordered specialized equipment recommended by Dr. Matthews, all funded by a combination of her savings and generous donations from fellow rangers who had heard Echo's story. Dr. Landon nodded, having expected this answer. She'll need continued medical monitoring, regular physical therapy, and a specialized diet. It's a significant commitment, Olivia. More like caring for a special needs child than a typical pet. She's never been a pet, Olivia replied simply. She's my partner. The day before Echo's scheduled discharge, Olivia arrived at the rehabilitation center to find an unexpected visitor waiting outside. Chief Ranger Wilson stood by his official vehicle, his normally stern expression softened with rare emotion. "Chief," Olivia greeted him, surprised. The head of Silver Ridge National Park rarely left his administrative duties for field visits. "I didn't know you were coming." "Some things you need to see with your own eyes," he replied, extending his hand. "How is she?" "Improving every day," Olivia said, leading him inside. "She's not the same Echo physically, but in every way that matters, she's still herself." Chief Wilson had known Echo since her early days in the service. As the ranger who had initially approved Olivia's application to the K9 Handler program, he had watched their partnership develop into one of the most effective teams in the region. When the news of Echo's disappearance had reached him, he had personally authorized the extended search operations, pushing department resources beyond standard protocols. As they entered the recovery area, Echo was working with Maya on a coordination exercise involving stepping over low barriers. She immediately noticed their arrival, her focus shifting to the new visitor. After a moment of careful study, her tail began to wag, a stronger, more enthusiastic motion than Olivia had seen since finding her. "She recognizes you," Olivia said, surprised by the strength of Echo's reaction. Chief Wilson knelt slowly, mindful of the knee replacement surgery he'd had the previous year. "Hello, Echo," he said, his gruff voice uncharacteristically gentle. "You've been on quite a journey, haven't you?" Echo approached him carefully, her gait still awkward but steadier than it had been days earlier. She sniffed his outstretched hand, then pressed her head against it, a gesture of both greeting and trust. The chief cleared his throat, clearly moved by the encounter. "Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable." He stroked Echo's head gently, his weathered fingers careful around the areas where fur was still thin. "I received a full report from Dr. Landon, but seeing her in person—" He shook his head in wonder. "It defies explanation." "That's what everyone says," Olivia agreed. "The medical team can't explain how she survived, how she found her way to that exact location, how she's recovering so rapidly. It's like something out of a miracle story." Chief Wilson nodded thoughtfully. "Which brings me to the reason for my visit." He straightened up with a slight wince, favoring his reconstructed knee. News of Echo's return has spread beyond our service. Local papers picked it up first, then regional networks. Now we're getting calls from national media outlets wanting to cover the story. This was surprising news to Olivia, who had been so focused on Echo's recovery that she'd paid little attention to the outside world. Media interest in Echo? In both of you, the chief corrected. It's a remarkable story, Olivia. A heroic service dog, presumed dead in a wildfire, somehow finding her way back to her handler years later, against impossible odds. People are captivated by it. It speaks to something we all need right now: hope, loyalty, perseverance against overwhelming challenges. Olivia frowned slightly. I'm not interested in publicity, Chief. Echo needs calm and consistency for her recovery, not cameras and interviews. I understand completely, he assured her, and I'll run interference with the media as much as possible, but there's something else to consider. He glanced down at Echo, who had settled at Olivia's feet, her good eye still tracking their conversation. Echo's ongoing medical needs will be significant. The department can cover some expenses through the Service Animal Fund, but it's limited. The implied concern was clear. Echo's specialized treatments, medications, and equipment would be costly, potentially beyond what Olivia's Ranger salary and the department's modest fund could sustain long-term. We'll manage, Olivia said firmly. I've been looking into options. There are some grants for retired service animals. I can pick up extra shifts, maybe some private guide work on the side. Chief Wilson nodded, respecting her determination. There's another possibility. The National Service Animal Foundation has reached out. They've heard about Echo and want to feature her story in their annual fundraising campaign. If you agree, they would cover all of Echo's medical expenses, rehabilitation costs, and special equipment needs, not just now, but for the rest of her life. Olivia hesitated, her hand automatically moving to rest on Echo's back. What would that involve? A professional photo shoot once she's stronger, an interview with their media team, perhaps participation in a few select events down the road when she's ready. The chief's expression remained neutral. It's entirely your decision, Olivia. You can decline with no impact on your position, or the support we'll provide regardless. I just wanted you to know the option exists. The prospect of sharing Echo's story more widely was not something Olivia had considered. Her focus had been solely on helping her partner recover, on rebuilding their life together one step at a time. Yet she couldn't deny the practical reality. Echo's ongoing care would be expensive, potentially prohibitively so. More than that, there was something compelling about the idea that Echo's extraordinary journey might inspire others. If her partner's incredible resilience and loyalty could bring hope to people facing their own struggles, wasn't that an extension of the service Echo had always provided? I need to think about it, Olivia said finally. Echo's welfare comes first. If I believe this would benefit her, or at least not harm her recovery, then maybe. But I won't exploit her struggle for a good story. Chief Wilson nodded, clearly having expected this measured response. Take your time. The Foundation understands this isn't a decision to rush. He looked down at Echo again, a rare smile softening his features. Whatever you decide, what matters most is that she's home. Against all odds, she found her way back where she belongs. As the chief prepared to leave, he handed Olivia an envelope. By the way, this came to the station for you. Seems Echo already has admirers. Inside was a handmade card, decorated with childish drawings of a dog with a ranger hat. The message, written in careful block letters, read, "Dear Echo, you are the bravest dog in the world. I hope you feel better soon. Love, Emma, age 8. Olivia stared at the card, unexpectedly moved by this small gesture from a child she'd never met. It was a reminder that Echo's story was already reaching beyond the walls of the rehabilitation center, touching lives and hearts in ways she hadn't anticipated. That evening, as sunset painted the rehabilitation center in warm, golden light, Olivia sat beside Echo in the grassy exercise area. Tomorrow, they would leave this place that had witnessed so much of Echo's remarkable recovery. Tomorrow, they would begin the next chapter of their journey together, not as ranger and service dog, but as two survivors finding a new path forward. "What do you think, girl?" Olivia asked softly, showing Echo the card from young Emma. "Maybe your story could help others. Maybe that's part of why you fought so hard to come back." Echo rested her head on Olivia's lap, her good eye reflecting the sunset. There was wisdom in that gaze, a depth of experience and understanding that transcended words. Whatever hardships she had endured during those 3 lost years, whatever battles she had fought to survive, Echo had emerged with her essential spirit intact. Different, yes. Changed by suffering, certainly, but undefeated. As stars began appearing in the darkening sky, Olivia made a silent promise to her partner. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever form their future took, she would honor Echo's extraordinary journey by ensuring it carried meaning beyond their own reunion. The dog who had saved so many lives, who had defied death itself to find her way home, still had purpose to fulfill, perhaps greater than either of them yet realized. The morning of Echo's discharge from the rehabilitation center dawned clear and mild, the harsh summer heat temporarily subdued by a gentle breeze carrying the scent of desert sage. Olivia arrived early, her truck freshly cleaned and prepared with blankets and cushions to make the journey comfortable for Echo. She'd spent the previous evening making final adjustments to her cabin, installing grab bars near doorways where Echo might need support, setting up a specialized feeding station at the perfect height to minimize strain, arranging multiple comfortable resting spots throughout the small space. Dr. Landon completed Echo's final examination with characteristic thoroughness, checking vitals, inspecting healing wounds, and reviewing medication instructions one last time. "Her progress continues to exceed expectations," she told Olivia, closing the chart. "I've rarely seen such remarkable recovery speed, especially given the severity of her initial condition." Dr. Matthews, who had driven up specifically to oversee Echo's discharge, nodded in agreement. "The damaged leg is responding well to therapy. She's using it more confidently each day." He handed Olivia a thick folder containing detailed rehabilitation protocols, medication schedules, dietary guidelines, and warning signs to watch for. "Follow these diligently, and I expect continued improvement. I've scheduled a follow-up visit in 2 weeks, but call immediately if you notice any regression." Olivia accepted the folder gratefully. "I can't thank you both enough for everything you've done." "Echo did the hard part," Dr. Landon replied with a rare smile. "We just provided the support." Maya and the other rehabilitation center staff had gathered to say goodbye, many with barely concealed emotion in their eyes. Over the past 3 weeks, Echo had become something of a mascot at the facility, her remarkable story and indomitable spirit inspiring everyone who worked with her. Maya knelt beside Echo, gently fastening a new collar around her neck, forest green leather with a silver tag reading Echo on one side, and Olivia's contact information on the other. "We had this made for her," Maya explained, blinking back. Tears. "The old one was too damaged to salvage, but we thought she deserved something special for her fresh start." Olivia ran her fingers over the soft leather, touched by the thoughtful gesture. "It's perfect, thank you." Chief Wilson had arranged for a small escort to accompany them home, 2 ranger vehicles that would lead and follow Olivia's truck on the 30-minute drive to her cabin. "Just a precaution," he'd explained when Olivia protested that it wasn't necessary, "and maybe a little bit of honor guard. She's earned it." As they prepared to leave, Dr. Matthews pulled Olivia aside for one final conversation. "There's something I want you to understand about Echo's recovery," he said quietly. "From a purely medical perspective, she shouldn't be doing this well this quickly. Her body endured trauma that would have killed most animals. The malnutrition alone should have caused organ damage that would take months to reverse." "What are you saying?" Olivia asked. The doctor's expression was contemplative. "In my years working with service animals, I've occasionally witnessed what I can only describe as healing that transcends physical medicine. It typically happens with dogs who have extraordinarily strong bonds with their handlers and a powerful sense of purpose." He looked toward Echo, who was accepting gentle goodbyes from the staff. "Echo isn't just healing because of antibiotics and physical therapy. She's healing because she found what she was looking for. She found you." The simple truth of this observation resonated deeply with Olivia. From the moment of their reunion in that junkyard, Echo had demonstrated a determination that went beyond mere survival instinct. She had recognized Olivia immediately, had responded to her voice with the last of her strength, had fought through that first critical night as if drawing energy from their reconnection. "The road ahead won't be easy," Dr. Matthews continued. "There will be setbacks, plateaus in her progress, days when the past trauma reasserts itself. But never underestimate the power of that bond. It's brought her this far against impossible odds. It will carry you both forward." With final goodbyes and promises to send regular updates, Olivia helped Echo into the truck, carefully settling her on the padded seat. Though still weak, Echo could now move with moderate independence, using her 3 stronger legs effectively while favoring the damaged one. She peered through the window as they pulled away, watching the rehabilitation center recede until it disappeared around a bend in the road. The procession of ranger vehicles attracted curious glances as they passed through the small town that served as gateway to Silver Ridge National Park. Word of Echo's miraculous return had spread through the close-knit community, taking on almost mythic proportions with each retelling. Several people waved from storefronts or paused on sidewalks, pointing at the convoy with recognition. "Looks like your famous girl," Olivia commented, glancing at Echo, who sat tall despite her weakened state, surveying the passing scenery with quiet alertness. The road gradually narrowed as they left town behind, winding through pinyon pines and weathered rock formations. After 20 minutes, they turned onto a dirt track that led to the cluster of ranger cabins situated on the eastern boundary of the park. Olivia's cabin stood slightly apart from the others, a deliberate choice when she transferred to Silver Ridge, seeking solitude in the aftermath of loss. The ranger escort stopped at the entrance to Olivia's property, offering a respectful salute as she drove past them to the cabin. Chief Wilson stepped out of the lead vehicle, approaching as Olivia carefully helped Echo down from the truck. "Welcome home, Echo," he said, with uncharacteristic gentleness. "The service has missed you." Echo regarded him steadily, then turned her attention to the cabin and surrounding area, her nose working to catalogue the new environment. Despite her physical limitations, there was an undeniable alertness in her posture, the instinctive assessment of a working dog automatically scanning for potential threats or points of interest. Olivia led Echo carefully up the newly installed ramp to the porch. "This is home now," she said softly, opening the door. "It's different from our cabin in Cascade, but I think you'll like it here." Echo entered cautiously, moving with deliberate care as she explored the small space. She inspected each room methodically, from the cozy living area with its stone fireplace to the compact kitchen, the bedroom with its large window overlooking the hills, and finally the bathroom, where Olivia had set up a walk-in shower with a handheld attachment for Echo's baths. Throughout this exploration, Olivia watched with growing amazement. This wasn't random wandering. Echo was conducting a precise security sweep, exactly as she had been trained to do when entering new environments during their service together. Despite years of separation, despite physical trauma that had forever altered her capabilities, Echo was instinctively falling back into their established patterns. When the inspection was complete, Echo returned to Olivia, who had been watching from the doorway. She sat, somewhat awkwardly due to her damaged leg, but determinedly, and looked up at her partner with clear eyes, as if reporting, "Area secure." Olivia knelt, wrapping her arms around Echo's neck in a gentle embrace. "Good job," she whispered, the simple praise carrying the weight of all they had endured to reach this moment. "We're home." The first days in the cabin established a new rhythm for their life together. Mornings began with medication and gentle stretching exercises for Echo's damaged leg, followed by a carefully measured breakfast of specialized food designed to continue rebuilding her strength. Mid-mornings were devoted to more intensive physical therapy, exercises Dr. Matthews had designed to improve Echo's balance, coordination, and stamina. Afternoons typically involved short walks that gradually increased in distance as Echo's endurance improved. These excursions were taken slowly, with frequent breaks, but Echo approached them with unmistakable determination. Each day, she managed a few steps more than the day before, her gait becoming more fluid as she adapted to the limitations of her damaged leg. Evenings were for rest, with Echo stretched out beside Olivia on the porch, watching the sunset paint the desert landscape in stunning oranges and purples. During these quiet moments, Olivia would sometimes talk softly about their years apart, telling Echo about her transfer to Silveridge, the silent grief that had followed her, the slow process of building a new life without her partner. Though Echo couldn't respond in words, her steady gaze and occasional gentle press of her head against Olivia's hand conveyed understanding. A week after their homecoming, Olivia received an unexpected visitor. A silver sedan with a familiar logo on the door pulled up outside the cabin. Angela Warren from the National Service Animal Foundation, the organization Chief Wilson had mentioned. Olivia had been considering their offer but hadn't yet responded. "I hope you don't mind the unannounced visit," Angela said after introducing herself. A woman in her early 40s with kind eyes and a direct manner, she explained, "I was in the area for another foundation matter and thought it might be helpful to meet in person." Olivia invited her in, where Echo was resting on her orthopedic bed near the fireplace. The German shepherd raised her head at the stranger's entrance, assessing without alarm. Angela knelt at a respectful distance. "So, this is Echo. May I approach her?" Appreciating the considerate request, Olivia nodded. "She's good with people, always has been." Angela moved closer slowly, allowing Echo to sniff her extended hand before gently stroking her head. "Extraordinary," she murmured. "Chief Wilson told me about her condition when she was found. The transformation is remarkable." "She improves every day," Olivia confirmed. "The doctors say her recovery speed defies medical explanation." "Some things do," Angela agreed. She settled into a chair at Olivia's invitation, declining the offer of coffee. "I wanted to discuss our proposal in more detail, answer any questions or concerns you might have." Over the next hour, Angela outlined the Foundation's vision with clarity and passion. The National Service Animal Foundation supported working dogs across multiple fields: military, law enforcement, search and rescue, medical alert, and wildlife conservation. Their annual campaign typically featured stories of exceptional service animals to raise awareness and funding. "Echo's story is unique," Angela explained. "Most of our features involve dogs who performed extraordinary service during their working years. Echo certainly did that based on her record, But her journey after separation from you, surviving against impossible odds, somehow making her way back, that speaks to something even deeper about the bond between handlers and their partners. Olivia nodded thoughtfully. That bond is what's helping her recover now. The doctors confirmed it. Exactly. Angela leaned forward, her expression earnest. And that's the story we want to tell, not just Echo as a hero during her service. Years, but Echo as a testament to loyalty, perseverance, and the healing power of connection. She outlined what participation would involve. A professional photographer and writer would document Echo's recovery journey in a respectful, non-intrusive manner. The foundation would cover all medical expenses, rehabilitation equipment, and specialized nutrition indefinitely. In return, Echo would become the centerpiece of their upcoming campaign, The Journey Home. We've already received preliminary interest from several national media outlets, Angela added. Good Morning America wants to feature her story. National Geographic has expressed interest in a documentary segment, but, she emphasized, your and Echo's well-being remains the priority. Any appearances would be scheduled around her recovery needs and comfort level. Olivia considered the proposal carefully. The practical benefits were undeniable. Echo's ongoing medical needs would be substantial, and the Foundation's support would eliminate financial concerns, but more compelling was the potential impact of sharing Echo's journey. During our years of service, Olivia said slowly, Echo saved 17 lives directly through search and rescue operations, countless more through her work detecting environmental hazards. That was her purpose, helping others, making a difference. She looked at Echo, who was listening to their conversation with quiet attentiveness. Maybe this is another way for her to continue that purpose, even if she can't return to active service. Angela nodded. That's exactly how we see it. Her story has the power to inspire people facing their own seemingly impossible challenges. To remind them that sometimes what appears lost forever can still find its way back. After further discussion of logistics and boundaries, Olivia tentatively agreed to the Foundation's proposal with several conditions. Echo's recovery would remain the top priority. She would have final approval on all content, and they would pause or withdraw if the process seemed to negatively impact Echo's progress. We wouldn't want it any other way, Angela assured her, clearly pleased with the outcome. We'll start with a simple photo session here at the cabin when you feel Echo is ready, everything at her pace. As Angela prepared to leave, she hesitated at the door. There's one more thing. Since news of Echo's return began spreading, we've received something unexpected. She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Letters, dozens of them from across the country, people who heard about Echo and felt compelled to reach out. Olivia accepted the envelope with surprise. Letters? About Echo? Read them when you have time, Angela suggested. I think they'll help you understand why her story matters to so many. That evening, after completing Echo's physical therapy routine and settling her comfortably on her bed, Olivia opened the envelope. Inside were letters in various formats, handwritten notes on personal stationery, typed pages, colorful cards, even drawings from children. She began reading them one by one, increasingly moved by the personal connections people had formed with Echo's story. A veteran with PTSD wrote about how hearing of Echo's survival gave him renewed hope in his own recovery journey. A young girl with a severe physical disability sent a crayon drawing of Echo with the message, "Never give up." A search and rescue. Volunteer from Montana shared how Echo's story had reinvigorated his commitment to training during a period of burnout. Most poignant was a letter from an elderly woman in Florida who had lost her son in a wilderness accident 10 years earlier. "The ranger and dog who found my boy came too late to save his life," she wrote. but they brought him home to me so I could say goodbye. When I read about Echo finding her way back to her ranger after so long, it felt like a circle closing somehow. Some journeys take years, but they still reach their destination. Olivia read until her vision blurred with tears. The depth of people's responses overwhelming in its sincerity. Echo, sensing her emotion, moved from her bed to press against Olivia's leg, offering the same comfort she had provided countless times during their years of service together. "Look what you've done already, girl," Olivia whispered, stroking Echo's head. "And we're just beginning." 2 days later, the Foundation's photographer arrived, a soft-spoken woman named Teresa, who had extensive experience working with service animals. Rather than staging formal portraits, she simply observed Echo and Olivia throughout their daily routine, capturing authentic moments with a long lens that allowed her to remain unobtrusive. She photographed Echo during physical therapy, her face intense with concentration as she worked to strengthen her damaged leg. She documented quiet moments of connection between handler and dog, Olivia gently checking Echo's healing wounds, Echo resting her head on Olivia's lap during rest periods, the two of them watching the sunset from the porch steps. Most powerful were the images of Echo's determined efforts to reclaim her mobility, the careful way she navigated the cabin's threshold, her three-legged hop when she needed to move quickly, her growing confidence on their short walks through the surrounding landscape. "These are extraordinary," Teresa said quietly, reviewing the images on her laptop after 3 days of documentation. "You can see her story in every frame, the trauma she's endured, but also her resilience, her determination to recover." She paused on an image of Echo gazing up at Olivia, the bond between them almost palpable. And this connection, it's rare to capture something so powerful so authentically. She selected a collection of images that best represented Echo's journey, from her current recovery efforts to archive photos of her active service days that Olivia had provided. The contrast was stark. The sleek, powerful working dog racing through forest terrain versus the thinner, more subdued Echo with her visible scars and careful movements. Yet, in both past and present images, the same intelligence shone in those amber eyes, the same determination and heart. When Teresa departed with her portfolio of images, she left Olivia with prints of several photographs. Gifts, she explained, separate from the Foundation's campaign materials. Olivia placed them carefully in frames around the cabin, visible, reminders of both what they had lost and what they had miraculously regained. The following week brought Dr. Matthews for Echo's scheduled follow-up examination. He spent over an hour assessing her progress, measuring muscle development, testing range of motion, and observing her movement patterns. His conclusion exceeded even Olivia's optimistic expectations. "She's well ahead of any recovery trajectory I could have predicted," he said, making notes in Echo's medical file. "The muscle tone in the damaged leg is improving steadily. She's bearing more weight on it than I thought would be possible at this stage. And neurologically, she's showing no deficits whatsoever. Her responses are sharp, her spatial awareness intact." Olivia felt a surge of pride in her partner's determination. She works through the therapy exercises religiously, never quits even when it's clearly painful. Dr. Matthews nodded, unsurprised. "Working dogs like Echo are exceptional in their focus and drive. Once they understand that an activity is part of their job, they approach it with total commitment." He smiled slightly. "Though even by those standards, Echo is remarkable." He adjusted Echo's medication regimen, reducing certain pain medications, while increasing supplements to support continued healing. "I'd like to introduce some new therapy techniques," he added, demonstrating exercises involving more complex movements that would help Echo regain balance and coordination. She's ready for more challenges now. Before leaving, Dr. Matthews paused at the door, his expression thoughtful. You know, when I first examined her after she was found, I would have told you that the best outcome we could hope for was basic mobility and comfort. The idea that she might regain this level of function seemed impossible. He shook his head in wonder. She's rewriting what I thought I knew about recovery potential. That's Echo, Olivia said simply. Doing the impossible is what she does. That evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the stars appear one by one in the clear desert sky, Olivia reflected on how far they had come in such a short time. Just weeks ago, she had been a solitary figure, going through the motions of her ranger duties while carrying the weight of an unresolved loss. Echo had been clinging to life in a junkyard, her extraordinary journey unknown to anyone. Now they were reunited, healing together, and their story was beginning to touch lives far beyond their small corner of the world. Echo shifted position, laying her head on Olivia's lap with a contented sigh. Despite the visible scars, despite the damaged leg that would never fully heal, despite all she had endured during those lost years, there was a peace in her presence that hadn't been there when Olivia first found her. It was as if, having completed her impossible journey home, Echo could finally rest, secure in the knowledge that she had accomplished what mattered most. Whatever happened during those 3 years, Olivia said softly, stroking Echo's ears, wherever you were, whatever you had to do to survive, it led you back here, back to me. She gazed up at the vast expanse of stars. Maybe some journeys aren't about where you go, but about finding your way back to where you belong. Echo's tail thumped gently against the wooden porch, a quiet affirmation that needed no translation. Some truths transcend words, living instead in the silent understanding between souls who have found each other against all odds and refuse to let go again. 1 month after Echo's homecoming, progress had become their steady companion. Echo now navigated the cabin with growing confidence, her movement still asymmetrical but increasingly fluid as she adapted to her limitations. The damaged leg would never fully recover its strength, but Echo had developed remarkable compensatory techniques, distributing her weight efficiently across her 3 stronger limbs while using the injured one for balance and support. Their daily walks had extended to half a mile, a distance that would have seemed impossible during those first critical days at the rehabilitation center. Echo tackled each outing with quiet determination, her good eye alert to every movement. In the surrounding landscape, her damaged ear flicking at distant sounds. Though she would never again bound through forest undergrowth or scale rocky terrain, she had reclaimed enough mobility to experience genuine joy in exploration. The physical healing, remarkable as it was, told only part of their story. Less visible but equally significant was Echo's psychological recovery. Day by day, her personality re-emerged. The intelligent alertness, the subtle sense of humor, the boundless loyalty that had always defined her. Small gestures returned, the way she nudged Olivia's hand when she sensed her partner was lost in thought, the soft huff of breath that signaled mild disapproval, the distinctive head tilt when processing complex information. Yet alongside these positive developments, shadows remained. They arrived unexpectedly, typically in the quietest hours of night when defenses were lowest. The first episode occurred 3 weeks after they returned to the cabin. Olivia woke suddenly to sounds that froze her blood, whimpers escalating to yelps of terror, the frantic scrabbling of claws against wooden floors. She found Echo thrashing in her bed, legs churning as if running, eyes open but unseeing, trapped in some nightmare landscape only she could perceive. "Echo," Olivia called softly, keeping her distance. Dr. Matthews had warned against startling a service dog during a night terror. Their protective instincts combined with disorientation could trigger defensive reactions. "Echo, you're safe. You're home." The familiar voice penetrated the fog of fear. Echo's movements slowed, her eyes gradually focusing on Olivia's face. Recognition dawned, but the terror didn't immediately recede. Echo's breathing remained rapid, her body trembling violently. Olivia sat on the floor near her, maintaining a non-threatening distance. "It's okay now. Whatever you're remembering, it's over. You survived. You made it back." Slowly, hesitantly, Echo inched toward her, belly low to the ground in a posture of vulnerability rarely seen in the confident service dog. When she reached Olivia, she pressed against her, tremors still running through her body. Olivia rapped, her arms gently around Echo's shoulders, feeling the racing heartbeat gradually slow beneath her hands. They remained that way until dawn painted the eastern sky with pale light. Neither slept again that night, Olivia keeping silent vigil while Echo maintained physical contact as if afraid her partner might disappear if she let go. The next day, Olivia called Dr. Matthews to report the episode. "Post-traumatic stress," he confirmed, unsurprised. "Common in service animals who've experienced severe trauma. Her brain is processing what happened during those missing years." "Is there anything I can do to help her?" Olivia asked, watching Echo, who had finally fallen into exhausted sleep on her bed. "Consistency, security, patience," he advised. "Much like human PTSD treatment. Maintain routines so she knows what to expect. Create safe spaces where she feels protected, and when episodes occur, do exactly what you did. Provide calm reassurance without forcing physical contact." He recommended some modifications to their environment: a nightlight to prevent complete darkness, a light blanket that Echo could pull over herself when feeling vulnerable, a technique developed for anxious service dogs, and leaving soft music playing when Echo might be alone briefly. "Also," he added, "many handlers find that continuing modified versions of service work helps. Having a purpose, a job to focus on. It gives them direction outside of their trauma memories." This suggestion resonated with Olivia. Echo had always thrived on having clear tasks and responsibilities. Perhaps what she needed now wasn't just physical rehabilitation, but a renewed sense of purpose, appropriately adapted to her current capabilities. The nightmares continued to come, though with decreasing frequency and intensity as weeks passed. They established a ritual for these episodes. Olivia sitting nearby, speaking softly, sometimes reading aloud from whatever book she was currently enjoying, creating a gentle sound landscape to help Echo find her way back from whatever darkness claimed her. Sometimes Echo would return to sleep afterward. Other times she would remain watchful until morning, as if standing guard against invisible threats. One quiet evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the sunset, Olivia's phone rang. The caller ID showed Angela Warren from the National Service Animal Foundation. "The response to Echo's initial photos has been extraordinary," Angela reported. "We've had to expand our server capacity to handle traffic to the Foundation website. People are deeply moved by her story." The Foundation had created a dedicated section on their website titled Echo's Journey, featuring Teresa's photographs alongside a sensitively written narrative of Echo's service record, disappearance, miraculous discovery, and ongoing recovery. Within days of its launch, the page had received hundreds of thousands of visits, with donations flowing in at unprecedented rates. "We've already secured funding for 2 new training programs for service dogs," Angela continued, excitement evident in her voice. "And the support specifically designated for Echo's ongoing care has far exceeded our projections." Olivia was gratified by the positive response, but remained protective of Echo's welfare. What's the next step? Echo's still recovering, still having some difficult nights. "We understand completely," Angela assured her. "Your conditions remain our priority. That said, we've received a request we wanted to discuss with you. She explained that a prominent national morning show wanted to feature Echo's story in a segment about extraordinary animal journeys and the human-animal bond. They're proposing a very low-key approach. A single crew, filming at your cabin on Echo's home territory. No studio lights or large production elements. Olivia hesitated. While the Foundation's photography had been minimally intrusive, television, cameras, and a production crew represented a significant escalation. I'd need to be sure it wouldn't set back her progress. Of course, Angela agreed. Take time to consider it. Talk with her veterinary team. If you decide it's too much right now, we'll simply decline on your behalf. After consulting with Dr. Matthews and Dr. Landon, who provided cautious approval with specific conditions regarding timing and approach, Olivia tentatively agreed to the interview. Echo had been making steady progress, her confidence growing daily. Perhaps carefully managed exposure would be a positive step in her reintegration. The morning show sent their most experienced correspondent, Catherine Miller, known for her sensitive handling of emotional stories and her background in animal welfare. Rather than arriving with a large crew, she brought only a camera person and a sound technician, both of whom had experience working with service animals. Before any equipment was set up, Catherine spent an hour simply sitting with Olivia and Echo, allowing the German Shepherd to become comfortable with her presence. She asked thoughtful questions about Echo's preferences, triggers to avoid, and signs of stress to watch for. "We'll follow her lead entirely," Catherine assured Olivia. "If at any point she seems uncomfortable, we'll pause or stop completely." The actual filming was conducted with remarkable sensitivity. The crew moved slowly, kept equipment minimal, and maintained respectful distances. Catherine interviewed Olivia on the porch, while Echo rested nearby, occasionally approaching to check on her partner before settling again. The most powerful moments came during Echo's afternoon therapy session. With quiet determination, she worked through her exercises, careful stretches for the damaged leg, balance challenges navigating around obstacles, strengthening movements designed to improve her stability. The camera captured her focus, her perseverance through obvious discomfort, and the bond with Olivia that seemed to provide endless motivation. "What do you think kept her going during those years she was missing?" Catherine asked, toward the end of the interview, her voice gentle. Olivia considered the question carefully. "I believe Echo never forgot who she was, or who she belonged with. Even when survival must have consumed every ounce of her energy, something deeper kept her moving forward, something beyond instinct." She looked at Echo, who had settled at her feet, eyes half closed but ears attentive. Working dogs like Echo have an extraordinary sense of purpose. Her purpose led her back to me, against all odds. 2 weeks later, Echo's story aired nationally. The segment, titled The Impossible Journey Home, presented Echo's narrative with dignity and emotional depth. Catherine's narration was restrained, allowing the images to convey the power of the story. Echo's dramatic rescue, her determined rehabilitation, her quiet moments of connection with Olivia. The before and after photographs were particularly striking. The strong, confident service dog in her ranger vest contrasted with the injured survivor still fighting her way back to health. The public response was immediate and overwhelming. The Foundation's website crashed temporarily from traffic volume. Echo's dedicated Instagram account, created and managed by the Foundation with Olivia's input, gained over 1 million followers within days. Letters and packages arrived at the ranger station daily. Toys for Echo, handmade blankets, specialty treats, and countless messages of support and gratitude. "She's touched something in people," Chief Wilson observed, delivering another box of mail to Olivia's cabin. "Something we all need right now. Hope that even when things seem impossible, there's a way forward." Olivia agreed, though she remained protective of Echo's privacy and recovery. They accepted only a handful of the many media requests that followed, prioritizing those that aligned with the Foundation's mission of supporting service animals. Echo seemed to understand the importance of these appearances, approaching them with the same steady focus she had once brought to her ranger duties. Perhaps most meaningful were the visits from fellow handlers and their service dogs, carefully scheduled one-on-one interactions that seemed to bring Echo particular joy. Watching her communicate with other working dogs, Olivia glimpsed the Echo of before, alert, engaged, inherently purposeful. These visits often left Echo tired but visibly content, as if reconnecting with her own kind had satisfied something essential in her spirit. As Echo's physical recovery progressed, Olivia began considering Dr. Matthews' suggestion about modified service work. Though Echo would never return to active ranger duty, her intelligence and training remained intact. There had to be ways she could use these gifts within her new limitations. The answer came unexpectedly during a routine checkup at the rehabilitation center. While waiting in the reception area, Olivia noticed a young woman with a service dog in training, a golden retriever, barely out of puppyhood, struggling with basic commands. The handler looked frustrated, close to tears. Echo watched the scene with evident interest, her focus intensifying as the puppy failed repeatedly to respond to the stay command. Without prompting, she rose from her position beside Olivia and approached slowly, respectfully. The puppy immediately noticed her, stopping his fidgeting to watch the older dog. With deliberate precision, Echo demonstrated a perfect stay, holding the position while looking directly at the young dog. After a moment, she returned to Olivia, leaving the puppy staring after her with newfound attention. "Try again," Olivia suggested to the handler, intrigued by Echo's intervention. The young woman gave the command, and remarkably, the puppy responded, correctly holding the position for several seconds before breaking. Echo watched with what Olivia could only describe as approval. "That's amazing," the handler said, staring at Echo with wonder. "Who is she?" After learning Echo's identity, the young woman explained that she was training service dogs for veterans with PTSD, but struggling with some aspects of the process. "I understand the techniques, but I'm not always good at demonstrating what I want them to learn. Your Echo just showed my Brady exactly what to do, clearer than I ever could." This chance encounter sparked an idea. When Dr. Landon emerged to call them for their appointment, Olivia described what had just happened and asked a tentative question. Would it be helpful to have Echo work with training puppies? Not physically demanding activities, just demonstration and socialization. Dr. Landon considered this thoughtfully. It's not uncommon for experienced service dogs to assist with training. Echo's limitations wouldn't prevent her from modeling behaviors and providing appropriate correction for puppies. In fact, she added with a smile, some of our best trainers are retired service dogs. They communicate in ways humans simply can't. With Dr. Matthews' enthusiastic approval, Echo began spending one morning a week at the Regional Service Dog Training Center. Her role was limited but significant, demonstrating commands, modeling proper service dog behavior, and providing gentle guidance to puppies learning their future roles. The work was mentally stimulating without being physically demanding, perfectly suited to Echo's current capabilities. The change in Echo was remarkable. While she had been making steady progress before, now she approached each day with renewed vigor. The nightmares became less frequent, her sleep more peaceful. There was a clarity in her gaze that spoke of purpose rediscovered, of value reaffirmed. One crisp morning, as they drove to the training center, Olivia glanced at Echo sitting tall, in the passenger seat, alert and focused. The contrast with the broken creature she had discovered in that junkyard just months ago was almost incomprehensible. Though Echo still bore physical scars, the damaged leg, the blind eye, the areas where fur would never fully regrow, these now seemed like badges of honor rather than markers of trauma. They told the story of a journey only Echo fully knew, a testament to survival against impossible odds. At the training center, Echo was greeted with enthusiasm by staff and puppies alike. The youngest trainees, 7 German Shepherd puppies barely 3 months old, scrambled excitedly at her approach, respect and curiosity evident in their behavior. Echo moved among them with patience and dignity, allowing brief play before subtly guiding them into more structured interaction. The head trainer, a retired military canine handler named Marcus, joined Olivia as she watched Echo work with the puppies. "She's got a gift," he observed. "Natural authority without intimidation. The puppies learn faster with her than with any human trainer." "She was always exceptional," Olivia replied, pride evident in her voice. "But this is different from the work she did before. It's gentler, more about guidance than action." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes the greatest service comes after the active duty ends, the wisdom passed on, the example set." He watched as Echo demonstrated perfect recall for the puppies, moving with careful grace despite her limitations. "She's showing them something we can't teach, how to maintain their purpose even when circumstances change." During the drive home, Echo rested more heavily against the seat, tired but content in a way that spoke of fulfillment rather than mere exhaustion. Olivia reached over to stroke her head, overwhelmed with gratitude for this second chance neither of them had expected to receive. "You're still changing lives," she told Echo softly, "just in a different way now." That evening, as they sat together on the porch watching the stars emerge, Olivia found herself reflecting on the journey they had traveled. 6 months ago, she'd been going through the motions of life, her grief for Echo a constant shadow. Echo had been clinging to survival in that junkyard, her extraordinary effort to find her way back unknown to anyone. Now they had not only reunited, but found new purpose together, Echo's story inspiring thousands, her gentle guidance shaping the next generation of service dogs, their shared bond demonstrating the resilience of connection against all odds. A shooting star traced a brilliant path across the darkening sky. Echo tracked its movement, her good eye reflecting the momentary light. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the peaceful sounds of the desert night, Olivia felt a sense of completion she had never expected to find again. Whatever mysteries remained about Echo's missing years, the journey that had brought her hundreds of miles, the hardship she had endured, the will that had kept her alive, perhaps they weren't meant to be fully understood. What mattered was that Echo had found her way home, and in doing so, had created a new beginning, not just for herself and Olivia, but for countless others touched by her extraordinary story. "Some things can't be explained," Olivia murmured, her hand resting lightly on Echo's back. "They can only be lived." Echo leaned against her, solid and real and present. In that simple contact was everything that needed saying, a loyalty that had transcended separation, a bond that had guided them back to each other, and a silent promise to move forward together, whatever the future might hold. 1 year after Echo's miraculous discovery in the Henderson junkyard, Olivia stood at the edge of a small gathering on the grounds of the National Service Animal Memorial in Washington, D.C. The autumn air carried a pleasant crispness, golden leaves drifting, occasionally, from the surrounding maples. Echo sat beside her, the morning sunlight catching on her new ceremonial vest, deep green with silver trim, bearing both her original Ranger Service patches and a special emblem designating her as an ambassador of hope for the National Service. Animal Foundation. Though still leaner than in her prime working days, Echo had filled out considerably over the past year. Her coat, once patchy and dull, now gleamed with health, though several distinctive scars remained visible. permanent reminders of her extraordinary journey. The damaged leg would always be her weakest point, but months of dedicated therapy had resulted in remarkable mobility. Echo could now manage moderate walks, climb gentle slopes, and navigate varied terrain with careful confidence. Most striking was the transformation in her demeanor. The fearful, broken creature Olivia had discovered clinging to life had been replaced by a dog with quiet dignity, still bearing the imprints of trauma, but no longer defined by them. Echo's amber eye remained alert and intelligent, moving deliberately across the assembled crowd as if assessing potential needs or concerns. Once a ranger, always a ranger. Today marked the culmination of a journey neither of them could have imagined. Echo had been selected as the first recipient of the Foundation's newly established Resilience Award, created to honor service animals who demonstrated extraordinary courage in the face of overwhelming challenges. More significant than the award itself was the announcement to follow: the creation of the Echo Fund, a specialized program to support the recovery and retirement of injured service animals across the country. The Foundation's president, a distinguished woman in her 60s who had dedicated her career to animal welfare, approached the podium. Behind her stood a veiled bronze statue, its shape suggesting a dog in profile. "Distinguished guests, supporters, and friends," she began, her voice carrying across the hushed gathering. "We gather today not just to honor one extraordinary dog, but to recognize the unbreakable bond between handlers and their service partners, a bond that transcends duty, transcends separation, transcends even what we believe possible." She spoke briefly about Echo's service record, her presumed loss in the Carson Ridge fire, and her miraculous return. Then she turned to the heart of the story. What makes Echo's journey remarkable isn't just her survival against impossible odds, though that alone would be worthy of recognition. What touches us most deeply is what her story reveals about loyalty, about purpose that endures beyond trauma, about the capacity for renewal when love guides the way home. Olivia listened with quiet emotion, one hand resting lightly on Echo's back. The past year had brought changes neither of them had anticipated. Echo's story had indeed captured the nation's imagination, but more importantly, it had catalyzed meaningful change. The Foundation had used her journey to raise awareness about the needs of service animals during and after their working lives. Donations had funded research into advanced therapies for injured canines. Training programs now included protocols specifically designed to support dogs transitioning from active duty to retirement. Echo herself had become an ambassador in the truest sense, participating in carefully selected appearances where her calm presence and evident bond with Olivia spoke volumes. Children with disabilities found inspiration in her adaptation to her own limitations. Veterans with PTSD recognized a kindred spirit in her journey through trauma toward healing. Fellow handlers learned from the innovative techniques Olivia had developed to support Echo's recovery. Most rewarding was Echo's ongoing work with service dogs in training. What had begun as a tentative experiment had evolved into a structured program, with Echo providing crucial socialization and behavioral modeling for puppies, preparing for careers in search and rescue, medical alert, and veteran support. Handlers reported that puppies who trained with Echo showed exceptional focus and adaptability, as if learning directly from her example that service transcended perfect physical condition. The Foundation president concluded her speech with the formal unveiling of the bronze statue, a beautifully rendered likeness of Echo in her prime working days, alert and purposeful in her ranger vest. At its base, a simple inscription read, "For Echo, who found her way home against all odds, and for all service animals who light the path with their loyalty and courage." As applause rippled through the gathering, Olivia was approached by a Tall man in an impeccable uniform, adorned with the insignia of the National Park Service Director. He shook her hand warmly before kneeling to greet Echo, who regarded him with dignified attention. "Ranger Kincaid," he said, rising, "I can't express how honored we are to have you and Echo here today. Her story has brought unprecedented attention to the critical work of Ranger K9 units across the country." "Echo did the hard part," Olivia replied, with a smile that had become her standard response to such comments. "I'm just her transportation." The director laughed appreciatively. "Modest as always, but there's something specific I wanted to discuss with you." His expression grew more serious. "The service has been following Echo's work with training on puppies. It's produced remarkable results, better than conventional methods in several key metrics." Olivia nodded, having seen these outcomes firsthand. "Echo communicates in ways we can't. The puppies respond to her intuitively." "Exactly," the director agreed, "which is why we'd like to formalize and expand the program. We're establishing a specialized K9 training facility at Cascade Mountain, focusing specifically on search and rescue capabilities for challenging wilderness environments. We would be honored if you and Echo would consider taking a leadership role in its development." The offer caught Olivia completely by surprise. "Cascade Mountain, that's where you and Echo served together, yes. Where her journey began." The director's gaze was understanding. "We thought there would be a certain rightness to it, coming full circle." The prospect of returning to Cascade Mountain stirred complex emotions. Olivia had left that place carrying the weight of loss, unable to walk the same trails where she and Echo had worked side by side. The idea of returning now, with Echo beside her, changed but alive, different but whole, held a symbolic power she couldn't deny. "The position would be administrative and consultative," the director continued, recognizing her hesitation. "Developing protocols, guiding the integration of experienced service dogs like Echo into the training process, sharing the insights you've gained through her recovery journey. No field requirements unless you choose to include them." "Could I have some time to consider?" Olivia asked, her hand automatically moving to Echo's head, seeking the grounding contact that had become second nature. "Of course," the director replied. "Take all the time you need. The position will remain open for you." Later that evening, in the quiet of their hotel room, Olivia sat cross-legged on the floor beside Echo's comfortable bed, pondering the unexpected offer. Echo watched her with attentive eyes, sensing her partner's contemplative mood. "What do you think, girl?" Olivia asked softly. "Going back to where it all began, where we first became a team, where we lost each other?" Echo tilted her head slightly, ears forward, in the expression Olivia had come to recognize as deep consideration. After a moment, she rose from her bed and moved to Olivia's side, pressing against her in a gesture of solidarity that needed no translation. Olivia wrapped an arm around Echo's shoulders, drawing comfort from the solid, living warmth of her partner. "You're right. It's not about the place, is it? It's about what we bring to it now. Who we are after everything we've been through." The journey had transformed them both. Olivia was no longer the ranger who'd transferred to Silveridge, carrying unresolved grief, no longer defined by what she had lost. Echo was no longer the broken creature fighting for survival in that junkyard, no longer limited by what had been taken from her. Together, they had created something new from the fragments of their interrupted partnership, something that honored their shared past while embracing a different future than either could have anticipated. Perhaps returning to Cascade Mountain wasn't about revisiting painful memories, but about reclaiming the place with new purpose. About completing a circle that had begun when a young ranger and a freshly trained K9 had first stepped into those forests together, full of promise and possibility. 2 months later, Olivia stood on the porch of a newly constructed cabin on the eastern edge of Cascade Mountain National Forest. The winter landscape stretched before her in pristine white, the snow-laden trees creating a peaceful stillness broken only by occasional birdsong. Beside her, Echo surveyed their new territory with evident interest, her nose working to catalogue. The unfamiliar scents. The training facility was still under construction half a mile away, scheduled to welcome its first class of handler K9 teams in the spring. Until then, Olivia and Echo had time to reacquaint themselves with the terrain, to make this new cabin their own, and to prepare for the important work ahead. In the months following the ceremony in Washington, they had carefully transitioned from their life at Silver Ridge. The National Service Animal Foundation continued to support Echo's medical needs and to coordinate her public appearances, now scheduled around their new responsibilities. Chief Wilson had reluctantly accepted Olivia's resignation from active ranger duty, while expressing immense pride in her new role, shaping the next generation of search and rescue teams. The Foundation had documented this latest chapter in Echo's journey, capturing her triumphant return to the forests where she had once served with distinction. The images of Echo walking confidently through snow-dusted trails, navigating familiar landscapes with new awareness, had resonated deeply with her growing audience. Here was living proof that coming full circle didn't mean returning unchanged. It meant bringing all you had learned along the way back to where you began. After settling their belongings inside, Olivia prepared for their first significant outing, a visit to the memorial site established after the Carson Ridge fire. Located at the edge of the burn zone, which was now showing signs of regrowth, the simple stone marker honored the service personnel, including Echo, who had risked everything to evacuate the Wildlife Research Station. Echo's name would need to be amended now, the designation missing in action presumed deceased, no longer applicable to the very much alive dog walking beside Olivia through the snow. The hike took longer than it would have in their previous life together. They moved at Echo's pace, respecting her limitations while celebrating her remarkable mobility. What might have once been a 40-minute trek now occupied nearly 2 hours, with periodic rest stops and careful navigation around challenging terrain. Olivia didn't mind. The journey itself held meaning beyond its destination. As they approached the memorial clearing, Olivia felt a momentary tightening in her chest, the physical echo of old grief. But it dissolved as she watched Echo move forward with steady purpose, showing no distress at returning to the place where their paths had divided so dramatically. If Echo could approach this place with such clear-eyed presence, how could Olivia do any less? The memorial stone stood in quiet dignity amidst young pines that had begun reclaiming the scarred earth. Olivia brushed away the dusting of snow covering the engraved names, her fingers tracing the letters of Echo's entry. Beside her, Echo sat in a perfect service position, her good eye scanning the surrounding forest with professional attention. "We made it back," Olivia said quietly, addressing both her partner and the memory of that devastating day. "Not the way we expected, not without scars, but we're here." Echo looked up at her, then deliberately placed a paw on the stone, a gesture so intentional it took Olivia's breath away. Not a random movement, but a conscious acknowledgement. Yes, this happened. Yes, we were separated here. Yes, we found our way back. In that moment, with snow beginning to fall gently around them and the quiet forest bearing witness, Olivia felt the completion of something profound. The circle that had begun with their first partnership, been broken by fire and separation, and reforged through Echo's extraordinary journey home, had finally closed. Whatever challenges lay ahead, adapting their training approaches to Echo's capabilities, building the new program from the ground up, continuing to navigate Echo's ongoing medical needs, they would face them together, strengthened by the journey that had brought them back to these forests, not as they had been before, but as they had become through loss, perseverance, and rediscovery. As they turned to make their way back to the cabin, Echo paused, head lifting toward the distant mountains with sudden attentiveness. Olivia recognized the posture instantly. Echo had caught a sound beyond human hearing range, something that triggered her ranger instincts. Though no longer an active service dog, that essential part of her remained intact, a core identity that transcended physical limitation. "What is it, girl?" Olivia asked, automatically shifting into the alert stance they had practiced countless times during their working years together. Echo looked back at her, and in her steady gaze was everything that had made her exceptional from the beginning: intelligence, determination, unwavering loyalty. With deliberate precision, she turned toward the cabin and then back to Olivia, a clear signal: time to go home. Olivia smiled, understanding perfectly. They had honored the past, acknowledged the journey, and now it was time to move forward into the future they were building together. Not a return to what had been, but the creation of something new that carried forward the best of what they had always been to each other. As they made their way through the gathering dusk, snow creating a hushed blanket over the forest floor, Olivia felt a profound sense of rightness. Echo's impossible journey had led them here, to this moment of new beginning. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it as they always had, as partners, bound by a connection that had proven stronger than separation, stronger than trauma, stronger even than the passage of time itself. Echo walked beside her, steps careful but confident, her presence a living testament to the extraordinary resilience of the spirit. In her, Olivia saw not just the partner she had lost and miraculously regained, but a beacon of hope for all who face their own impossible journeys. If Echo could find her way home across such vast distances, such immense challenges, perhaps any separation could be bridged, any loss transformed, any broken circle made whole again. The cabin lights appeared through the trees, warm and welcoming. In the early winter evening, together, Ranger and Canine, survivor and guide, they walked toward that light, not the end of their story, but the beginning of its next remarkable chapter. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.